The college football experience, Clemson Tigers 2024 season preview episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, Underdog's giving away $15 million in Best Ball Mania 5. Sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Once again, that's underdogfantasy.com. Promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm has the best AI picks and projections, and their football models are almost live. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. Once again, that's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
Hey, what's up, you degenerate gamblers? This is Bill Burr, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, baby.
Yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience. Clemson Tigers 2024 season preview episode. Oh boy. Look, I'm excited. YouTube.com/the college experience. Get on over. We're breaking down all 134 teams, an hour to every single team in the land. So you're a Coastal Carolina fan. It's out there. Also, the FCS college football experience. We'll be talking Furman and Wofford, South Carolina State. And you know, I just find it great that some guy from Spartanburg, Tyler from Spartanburg, calls out Dabo, and then he wins out. Don't piss off Dabo Swinney, all right? Because he wins out, and now they're looking like the 12-team playoff. They could be in. You know, they were in the 14 playoff a lot, so of course they could be in the 12. But I also freshly back from ACC Media Days, I heard that Dabo was there talking how the ACC needs their own Paul Feinbaum. What? We got a lot to talk about on this episode, folks. Once again, hop on over there. If you're wondering just who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, a.k.a. Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick, a.k.a. the ultimate Cap Bozo. Yes, that's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
Gotta love it. Are they in the ACC? Are they out the ACC? But yet you want to Paul Feinbaum for the ACC when you're not even going to be there in a year, maybe? I don't know what's going on. Welcome to college athletics. Welcome to Clemson.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? Well, I like to think I am the Feinbaum for the ACC. The All-Coast Conference. 17 teams. Let's go.
You definitely don't hype the ACC shamelessly enough to be the Feinbaum for the ACC. You have a shred of reason to your argument.
Working on that. I am joined by my co-host. Give it up for former JMU Duke defensive back, the burrito eating, sideline kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, Patty C in the place to be.
Hi-oh.
Let's get this going, man.
By the way, that name, that list of aliases is getting longer by the day. The ultimate Cap Bozo.
That's my new name, Cap Bozo. Me and CJ figured this out. I've been thinking about it for a couple months, but look, I cap college football. I am a bozo, Cap Bozo.
Cap Bozo. For
years, I have said that a rapper should be named Cap Bozo, just like I said that a rapper should be named Tree Rollins, right? And look, I'm running with this. No, Pick Dundee is Cap Bozo. Cap Bozo is Pick Dundee.
Who's the band that who's
Mookie
the other
Blaylock?
guy?
Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam, that's right.
Yeah, I still think they would have been more successful had they just remained Mookie Blaylock. But folks, you're here for Clemson football. Bet you didn't think you'd get a Mookie Blaylock reference or a Tree Rollins. We're going to go through all old vintage Atlanta Hawks. So maybe you tune us off now. No, joking. Patty C, I'm excited to do this episode because you have been outspoken about how Clemson's your team this year, man. They don't use the portal. They made my work easy. Look, previewing 134 teams with all these slides, youtube.com/the college experience. We hit on the portal, and sometimes like Oregon State, I was writing for like 20 slides. Okay. This guy with Clemson, with Air Force, with Army, with Navy, it's fucking easy, man.
Completely empty slides. Gotta love it.
Tell the folks why you are a hardcore Clemson fan moving forward.
Well, of course, I love the player development aspect of college football. That's always been something that's made the game great. Is you watch the team, you grow with the team, you see the players develop, and they're your guys, and that's obviously something with the transfer portal era here that gets lost. It's you got teams that half the dudes are brand new, and then half the dudes you've been watching and rooting for just up and dip out. So Dabo Swinney's made it a point to, keep the transfer portal out of the Clemson program as really any of a factor in terms of players coming in. Certainly he can't control players leaving, but he seems to have done a pretty good job of that too. So look, I just think it's, about building a family and establishing relationships. That is a cool part of college football that he is making a concerted effort to keep a part of college football and to prove that it can be done in the modern era. And I'm all for it. I'm rooting for him big time.
I can say this. I respect it. I think it's respectable, but I also think like if he's so squeaky clean doing this, it's a weird hill to die on, knowing what I know from some of the other things that have happened.
I mean, you know what I mean?
It's like
Dabo is
it's very Spurrier-like, right?
Yeah. Or I was going to say Bowden. It's right up that alley. It's like he probably has some really, really redeeming qualities to him. That
I think so. I think
outstanding.
You're right.
Yeah. But
this might be one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think this is. I think that and Bowden, for all the
Well, he'd be a dickhead too, though. He couldn't tell. You couldn't transfer unless it was on the Pacific time zone.
Well, no. Bowden was clearly a fucking asshole. That's why Red Bow U and the Water Boy was clearly based after Bobby Bowden. He's like the asshole coach of shit talking college football, scumbag. But
look, son, you could transfer. But it's got to be San Jose State. Well,
that's right.
Well, coach, I don't know anyone in San Jose. Well, I'm just saying.
That's it.
Coach, there's no thing called the internet. There's no. How the fuck am I? Well, son, I best you got a car? No. Well, you best get your ass over to San Jose and ask, see if they need a tailback.
That's right. Start meeting some people. Start shaking some hands.
No, I mean Dabo. It's just a weird hill to die on because to me, I commend that you say you come here, you work hard, we're going to give you an opportunity. Had he not had those national championship seasons, might be a tough sell. But since he's got a little power to him now, I think he's got that luxury. But it's just a weird hill to die on, knowing there's wiretaps saying that the football program has paid people through the church before. But
players, who is it? Several of the recruits have just like bricks of cash. They're like 18 years old, and as soon as they're like just got back from Clemson, they have like pictures of them like with bricks of cash.
Yeah, well, it's the NIL era. You can do that now. I mean,
you couldn't before though. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, and they did it before too. I think.
To like break the rules before, like that. That was not a problem.
Well, that's the Spurrier thing to me.
Yeah.
It's like Spurrier had I think Dabo reminds me more of Spurrier than he does Bobby Bowden.
Yeah, in terms of like kind of being a wiener too. Yeah. No offense to the Clemson fans.
He's always got cock on his mind.
I don't get
buddy. Look, I want to talk more about Clemson, but before I do that, I want to tell you are listening to the College Football Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And look, the Sports Gambling Podcast just launched their 32 NFL team previews, and as a bonus, each preview will conclude a code word. Submit the 32 code word phrase, and you could be the lucky winner who gets a $500 NFL Circa Future bet. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and the SGPN app, which is available in the App Store and Google Play Store for free. Yeah, I mean, it's just a funny hill to die on, man. But where are you at with Dabo? I mean, I know you're that's your team, and where are you at with this old logo? Shout out to these slides I'm making. YouTube.com/The College Experience. I do believe viewing the show is a little bit better than listening to the show. But he's won 2 national championships. He's won 8 ACC
logos,
titles.
You going and digging up logos is one of the best part of this show. Come on YouTube, folks.
Thank you, buddy. A lot of hard work in there. But Patty C, rattling off some of these, I can see why they don't give it, like they shouldn't give a shit. So like, who did I listen to last year that tried to say he's on the hot seat? I'm like, the guy is 15-0 against Wake Forest. He's 14-1 against Boston College. I fucked
Botox College there.
I can't spell Boston. It's a tough one for me, especially after a few whiskeys. 11-3 against NC State, 10-1 against Syracuse, 12-5 against Georgia Tech. And now the best thing that ever happened to Dabo Swinney was Paul Johnson retiring, because that shit was like dead even 5-5. When Johnson retired, and now they've won like 6 or 7 in a row. 9-6 against Florida State, 9-6 against South Carolina, 4-2 against Notre Dame. One of the more surprising things: 3-1 against Ohio State, 4-1 against North Carolina. But Pitt, don't put Pitt on the schedule. Don't put Pitt, because even their wins against Pitt were close games, man. Your thoughts on? I mean, obviously, all that's remarkable, right?
It is remarkable. The funniest thing, though, is you have, back when Clemson and Georgia Tech, which is a long-standing series, I think you're right that probably most people don't recognize it as a rivalry, at least on a national scale. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Georgia Tech may still have the lead in the all-time series, or if not, it's pretty close.
It's close, yeah.
But for as much grief as we've given that supposed rivalry, look who he has the most trouble with. Georgia Tech. I guess Pitt, Florida State.
But yeah, Pitt, they're in the same conference, but they just never, back when there was 2 different divisions, you would see each other. It was like the SEC. It's like you played once every 20 years. So
actually that South Carolina series is surprising. He's only up 9-6. Dude, he had 12 straight 10-win plus seasons. How the hell has South Carolina gotten him so far? Well, a lot of that was Spurrier.
Early on. Spurrier, the old ball coach. But dude, I mean, still pretty remarkable.
Learning his ways.
He's 170 and 43 in 16 years. I love the fact that he won out after that dude talked shit on that radio show. I thought it was great.
Wait, was that last year?
Yeah.
What did they?
So go back and look. That was the loss to NC State. They lost to NC State, and they had like Notre Dame on deck, and they had, Carolina later in the year, and he wins out after being called out. You don't just call out Dabo Swinney, right?
Well, it's not even like they were bad last year. Yes, it was the first time in 13 years that they didn't get to 10 wins, but their losses.
They should have beat Florida State, man. If you watched that game, I was at a bar in Laramie, Wyoming, watching that
missed field goal. It was ridiculous. It's like a 30-yarder. It
should have never even got to that. The game was over before that. Yeah. They were better than Florida State last year. I don't care what anyone says.
That
game, head to head. I'm saying they deserve to win that game.
That game in Clemson, they were better.
Yes. And to me, like the whole game, they dictated to me the game. Like,
they botched it. They botched it. Yeah.
But they also botched the game at Miami when they couldn't run the ball like inside the 5 or whatever. Just disgusting. Yeah. They did lose to the pussy pack of NC State. I don't know how that happens, but dude, they short of the Duke game where Duke just thoroughly whooped their ass. They were in every game.
Now that was Cade Klubnik's like intro to college football, and honestly, though
the year before he played some.
I mean, he got some reps, I guess, with DJU at the helm as a starter. But yeah, he got plenty of reps the previous year. But this was his first year, like taking over, being the guy. Yeah, he shot the bed, but honestly, even that score misleading when you consider the yardage gained. I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly,
Yeah, there
it
was like
pretty
a fumble
close.
return for a touchdown, right?
Yeah, that game
like
was not a blowout till kind of the third quarter.
I don't know if Clemson ever had the lead though. I got to pull that back up, but I get your point though. Yes, but hold on. Let's play the other side of this coin though. They barely won by the Wake Forest game in Clemson. Like I think Wake had a chance to win that game. Yeah. They win by one score against Notre Dame. 11 to Carolina. 9-point win against South Carolina, 11-point win against North Carolina, and barely beat Kentucky in the bowl game. But it wins or wins. I'm just saying, like
that's not that big of a case to make to say that they were lucky to win those games. Those are pretty darn good teams, or at least in the case of Notre Dame.
The reason I bring it up though is that like 5 years ago they would blow those teams out. Yeah.
They just clearly are not the team. They're not recruiting at the same kind of guys on the edges that they had been. And I mean, I guess the transfer portal, they are losing some guys that they probably wouldn't have lost before, especially a couple years ago. I think, though, they did a little bit better of a job retaining guys this year. Do you think?
I think so, compared to probably.
I think they got hit a little bit in some previous years. But either way, I think recruiting obviously is the lifeblood of the Clemson program, since they're not taking anyone from the transfer portal, and they just haven't gotten those guys. They haven't gotten this Sammy Watkinses out there on the edge, and they're
quarterback too. Like they hit with Watson and Lawrence back to back, right? Or Kelly Bryant was there 1 year, right? And that's a pretty remarkable 8-9 years to have that, even because Kelly Bryant was still a very good college quarterback in my opinion.
Yeah,
I mean, to that high of a level.
Kelly Bryant. Yeah, Kelly Bryant was a very good college quarterback, and the fact that he got benched after going to a BCS game as the starter, it means their quarterback production was excellent. I mean, Kelly Bryant.
Well, it's hard.
He ended up going Missouri.
DJU, he went to Missouri after that and made a bowl. But DJU, it trickled off, and DJU is still solid, but it's just he was more average at the time. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's solid.
But his first year, he was average. He was better.
He was average. Yeah, he developed into a solid. And then last year, he kind of replicated on a different team what he did at Clemson, which was solid. So, but you're right. They just haven't had elite in a while. And then, dude, I'm looking at the draft right now. They haven't had a wide receiver drafted in the first round since 2021.
Well, that's the knock, man.
Drafts without a wideout being taken.
That's exactly the knock, though, is that we knew that was.
It doesn't look like they got one. Yeah.
No, we knew that was an area of weakness over the past couple of years. They didn't use the portal to get it, and then you watch games, you say, damn, they should have got that. But look, we're going to talk more about that in a second. I want to tell you folks out there that the Clemson season preview is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. They just launched their Underdog Streaks. If you hit your first 2 pick'em entries, then you go streaking. Bring your green hat. Look, if that's an old school reference if you don't know that one, but if you can get on an 11-0 run, you can win 1,000 times the amount of money you enter. Plus, Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. They just announced Best Ball College Football. I've never heard of that before. We're going to be covering it on this very show. I'm super excited. You can now use specials and boost to on all flexed entries. So sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Odds Jam. Yes, Odds Jam is your one-stop shop for beating the sportsbook. Yes, Odds Jam uses millions of data points across every U.S. and Canadian sportsbook to show you the best value plays for your money, folks. Their line shopping tool shows you the best price for any bet you want across countless sportsbook, not just DK and FanDuel, but BetOnline, Bovada, Cut, and much, much more. And their arbitrage tool will find opportunities where you can bet, both sides of the same prop on different sports books to guarantee a return on investment. So, remarkable. And look, if you're interested in trying out Odds Jam, we're going to give you a free 7-day trial period by just going to oddsjam.com with the promo code SGPN. Don't forget to enter that promo code, though, SGPN, to get 35% off your first month of your subscription over at Odds Jam. All right, we are back talking Clemson Tiger football. Patty C, and it was weird. You get to some of the bigger programs. We've been doing this exercise. What's the worst loss? It's hard with some of these, but I did add a few P5 games, or I don't know what we call the Big East back then, but there were a few P6. Early ones. Tommy Bowden.
P5.5.
Dabo did lose to TCU at home, and that's when TCU was in the Mountain West. 14-10. Gary Patterson went in there and got the dub. But what is the worst one on here, Patty C?
No, it's definitely the West Virginia one, and that was the bowl game, right?
Yes, 70-33.
That was such a black guy, and that was the one that was essentially the coming out party for the jet sweep for college football.
Yeah.
Who is
Noel Devine, right? Was that Noel Devine?
It might have been Noel Devine, or it might have been
Pat White. Was that Pat White?
No,
or am I
guy? It might have been Devine.
Stewart was the head coach.
No. Who was the little scat? Yeah, it was Stewart, Bill Stewart, and he was giving credit to the guy from Colorado School of Mines,
Bob Stitt.
That's right, for the creation of the jet sweep. But they had, who was that? I think we're number 8, the little scat receiver.
No, and I was going to say Noel Devine, but
West Virginia had a
Tavon Austin.
Yeah, maybe Tavon Austin.
Yeah. Either way, I mean, but not that Florida State 54-7.
That's pretty bad. I mean,
how about what Mike Leach did to him in the early 2000s?
Let me see that one. Hold on.
55-15.
It's hard to judge that though, because Clemson, with Dabo or without Dabo, are such a different program.
Very true. Very true.
There was a term prior to Dabo's arrival called, and maybe even for the first part of Dabo's arrival, called Clemsoning.
Yeah.
And he has definitely shut that down.
All right, let's look at big ones. Let's look at the offense from a season ago. Like, obviously Garrett Riley year 2, and I think we should circle that because I think that's important, because I do think the second year in an offense, especially, you saw TCU really drop off after he left. They went from making the national championship to 5-7. And I think he's a very good coach. So I think that the offense is probably going to be a lot better this year. They were 50th in scoring per game last season, 6th best in the ACC. They were 50th also in yards, which was 5th best in the ACC, 60th in passing, which is 6th best in the ACC, and 42nd in rushing, 6th best in the ACC. Patty C, are you shocked by those numbers?
Not really. Offensively, they weren't that impressive last year. I think that's been, their holdup. And those are still not terrible numbers, but they're decidedly mediocre. And that's kind of what we've seen Clemson to be lately, offensively.
Yeah. The good news, 7 starters back. You can find me in the club. Cade Klubnik is back year 2, and that's what I think you should circle too, is second year in his offense. It should be smoother. The receivers you alluded to, Tyler Brown, Tony Stellato, back at the wide receiver spot. Also tight end Jake Briningstool.
Troy or Tony Troy Stellato.
Did I
or
fuck
Tony
that up?
Stellato. It's one of the. I don't know.
I might have fucked that up.
It might be the website I'm looking at.
No, it's Troy, I believe. Right? Okay. Am I fucking this up?
Yeah, it's Troy.
Yeah. Anyway, they do bring back 3 of 5 on the offensive line, and their tight end Jake Briningstool. Patty C, this offense will be better in 2024. Yes or no?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think they're ready to take a step forward. I mean, the only thing they're really missing here is Will Shipley, and I think Phil
Mafah is also like practically a starter. I feel like Shipley was their starter.
Basically split carries, 179 for Mafah, 167 for Shipley. So if Mafah, I don't know that you're going to get a ton more carries than 179, but he could get up to the 200 range, and he did great. He had a much more of a touchdown maker, 13 touchdowns compared to Shipley's 5. And then a slightly higher yards per carry than Shipley. So, yeah, I think they're not going to be hurting at running back. And then I think Klubnik is just going to take another step forward.
Yeah, and those receivers, I think one of the bigger stories is like they might not even be starting for them. They have Antonio Williams, who got a couple starts a season ago, and then the freshman Brian Wasco that I think everyone's excited about, as well as Cole Turner, who got a couple starts the season ago as well.
So they finally got some guys in the recruiting.
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, they still have to prove it to us. I mean, there's been some. Well, I was just watching a CFL game the other day. Subscribe to the CFL Gambling Podcast, but they had a Jew or whatever, a Joe, whatever the fuck his name was. He was a huge recruit for them. You know what I'm talking about? Like AJOU. I remember like I had a Clemson beat writer on the show a few years back, and he was telling me like he's going to be so nasty, and he never really like. What's that?
Never developed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, he's in the CFL though, so he's still playing pro football.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about the portal because, like I said, they don't bring in any, but they did lose some guy. Hunter Helms is heading off to the Rhode Island Rams in the FCS. Check out the FCS college football experience. Hey, I'm sorry. Dominic Thomas heading off to Georgia State. Bo Collins. Wait a second here. Bo Collins. He was a weapon last year, right? He's like now at Notre Dame.
Third leading receiver for total catches. That's tough.
Brandon Spector heading out to Rich Rodriguez in Jacksonville State. Rich Rod, remember when he used to run the offense at Clemson?
Right.
Sage Ennis heading out to UVA, following Tony Elliott up the road to Charlottesville. And Flapjack Owens going to Colorado. I mean, I don't care if he's. I don't know if he's good or shitty, but damn it, with that name, he's great. All right. Flapjack Owens. I mean, just picture some gal at the bar, you know. Hi, what's your name? I'm Flapjack. You right there.
You're getting slapped.
Sex is happening. Mitchell Mays also on the offensive line going to Charlotte. Patty C. It seems like you're right. I don't think they did get hit. I would say Collins. Maybe
is kind of the only one. I mean, actually, I guess
maybe Flapjack because I think he was a big recruit, but he's only a freshman, so maybe that one eventually hurts.
When you're dependent on development, losing even a sophomore does hurt. But Dominic Thomas may have been the guy that was projected to take over, I guess, Shipley's role, it seems like a running back by committee approach to an extent with Mafah and Shipley last year. So Dominic Thomas only had 18 carries, but someone's got to take over a lot of those carries. And he looked like he was going to be the guy, but it's not like, it's probably next man up. It's not like he's a proven commodity that they're losing there.
Yeah. It's, by the way, Flapjack 380 pounds, according to Cannabis Capper. Look, I do think the offense will be a lot better in year two of just trusting a very good offensive coordinator. And I think maybe the Collins loss hurts, the Flapjack loss hurts a tiny bit, but I think the offense will be better statistically, even with all the new ACC teams coming in. Look, going to talk about the defense, but before we do that, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're not checking out the AI picks and props from Rhythm, well, you are missing out. They just predicted a ton of winners for the British Open, and now their football models are about to drop. They're going to be giving you winners over there. You can even customize your own betting models easily using Rhythm's tools. So jump on over there, check it out. We'll give you a free 7-day trial period by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. Once again, that's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. I was just in Vegas. Drove out there. Dude. When I drove out there, it was according to the thermometer on my car, like built into your car, 125 degrees. There was a point where I was driving and I had my wife and son in the car where it was like we went past like probably about 25 to 30 cars that have overheated. And I was and my wife's sitting there. She's like, You sure you shouldn't pull over? Like, you sure everything's all right? I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. And in my head, I'm just like, oh God, please don't break down. Please don't break down. Right. But once we got to the Circa, it worked out. Staying at the Circa for media days was great. Circa is the coolest like it's heaven. It's that scene in Field of Dreams. Is this heaven? And he says it's Iowa, which is the only time anyone's ever said Iowa's heaven. But this Circa, if you haven't been, is really heaven. They got Stadium Swim. It's fantastic. If you love sports, you'll love Circa. And Circa does just an amazing job and with all their stuff, and including this, their Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Yes, Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Oh, and the owner of Circa, Derek Stevens, shout out to him. Is he charging you a rake to enter? No, not at all. All right. This is Brad. He's in it for the love. All right. Imagine the regret you'll feel if you win your office pool Survivor, but didn't enter the Circa Survivor. I was talking to someone that worked at Wells Fargo that won their office Survivor. I feel like it was, I don't know. It was like back in like January or something, whenever the NFL season ended.
Made a solid $80 on it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, damn, dude. He was like, dude, we had hundreds of people playing, and he made like, I don't know. It was like, got like a gift card to Red Lobster and $300 or something, right? Like, I don't remember what it was, but it was something like minimal like that, which, I mean, that's good. But imagine if he had entered, because if you survived that and went all through the season, you would have won any pool, at least a portion of it, right? You would have been a millionaire had you entered Circus a season ago. So, I mean, don't ever think this thing. Yes. If you don't have a trip booked yet for Las Vegas yet before football season, may I recommend Ultimate Contest Week? It's a great time to go out. You can hang with Stacking the Money Green and Ryan Real Money Kramer from the Sports Gambling Podcast and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd to August 24th. Also, if you are going, you want to stay at Circa, use the promo code SGP15 to save you 15% on your hotel room for sign-up weekend. But remember, you got to sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th to enter, and you can use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. So hop on over there and do that. All right. We are back talking Clemson Tiger football. And
real quick about that offense, 5 of 6 receivers that had over 20 catches last year return. Bo Collins, who went where again?
Notre Dame, who's on the schedule. Well, no. They're not on the schedule this year.
I guess we couldn't see him in the play, maybe in the playoff, but either way, I would say returning talent wise on offense, pretty solid. I think the offense will be better. What do you think? Offense will be better?
I definitely think it'll be better. I just think year 2 in his offense too. So,
Riley's,
yeah, let's go.
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
The defense, Patty C. Now this is a question mark to me, and I think it's worth asking this. Brent Venables left 2 years ago, but for the past 2 years they kind of had a lot of the same guys starting on that defense, right?
Yeah.
And their defense has been very good still with Wes Goodwin there.
6 dudes drafted from the defense last year.
But that's what I'm saying. I wonder though, because that was we're gonna find
that's
out.
A lot.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's room for a little bit of little checkered little red flags there. Yeah, just like, I don't know. 29th in scoring defense season ago. That was giving up 21.1 points per game, 4th best in the ACC. They were number 1 in defensive, only giving up 287 yards. Number 1 in the ACC, 8th in the nation in yards, 8th in the nation in pass defense, 22nd in rush defense. All of them top 4 in the ACC.
Makes you think though that their red zone defense might not be particularly great, or that they're prone to give up the big play. I would have to see what it is that causes them to be 8th in yardage allowed, but somehow 29th in scoring allowed, or maybe their offense is just turning the ball over a lot. Short fields. I don't know, but either way, not an amazing scoring defense, but from a yardage standpoint, elite. An elite.
But they lose so many pieces. The returning guys, 3 guys back. Barrett Carter, the linebacking. No one on the defensive line. I know they're excited about Peter Woods. Sounds like a porn actor, but also nickelback Khalil Barnes and strong safety RJ Mickens. Punter Aiden Swanson's back as well, but
is it Parker? TJ Parker, is he back? I don't know. He's got 5.5 sacks last
Yes,
year.
he is back. He was a freshman a year ago. They're super excited about him. They're also excited about Sammy Brown at the linebacker spot.
Oh yeah, that guy was hyped.
Yeah,
he was like a top 5 recruit overall. Well,
Khalil Barnes is another one. Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta like when I see the recruiting rankings, I'll admit I'm like I don't know. I trusted like when I saw who's the guy that went up from LA to Oregon and was the elite like Black Mamba kick returner. I watched this high school film, not convinced he was going to be great, but obviously turned into an amazing.
How long ago are we talking here? Are you talking DeAnthony Thomas?
Yeah, DeAnthony Thomas.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
And like even with like a Clemson guy, Trevor Lawrence, you don't know what you're getting when they project them out of high school. But if this Sammy Brown dude is what they're talking about him being, hello.
Yeah. And also Wade Wood is in the linebacking core. I mean, we'll see if this defense, it's a tall order to be as good as a year ago with that many NFL draft picks on it. But
yeah.
They lost a couple guys too, and Andrew Makuba would be the big one to the Texas Longhorns. You filthy. I mean, is there anything worse than going to Texas? Not the state, but the university.
Slapping the old face.
Dude, but these are substantial losses in a way. I mean, I don't know if they were going to start on the defense, but I can tell you this. When you look at Texas and Missouri, those are two teams that are speculated to potentially be in the 12-team playoff. Minnesota is a team that had recently won 9 games. It wasn't last year, but it was the year before, right? And then Pitt is a team that gives Clemson trouble, and they are on the schedule. So,
yeah, I would think of several of those teams aren't just going to take mincemeat, through the transfer portal. They're looking for quality. And look, Clemson has produced quality across all positions on the defense. So it does suck when you get rated in the portal a little bit.
Patty C, I'm going to make I'm just going to go ahead and say the defense will not be as good as a year ago.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Slight offensive improvement, probably substantial, but I mean, maybe not humongous, but a noticeable defensive regression.
Yeah. The win total sitting at 9.5. Patty C, does that shock you on first thought?
No, that sounds about right.
Well, how about this, buddy? The juice on this, it's plus 135 to the over. So if you're a Clemson fan, you're gonna want to just jump on that. Minus 160 to the under. Now here's my problem, Patty C. So Vegas is saying they're gonna go 9-3. With that much juice going both ways, you're just sitting there saying Vegas is saying they have them 9-3. I don't know if a 9-3 team from the ACC makes it to the playoffs without winning the ACC conference championship game.
They would need to beat Georgia in the opener.
Yeah.
And if they beat Georgia in the opener, they're not going 9-3. Most likely.
They're plus 350 to win the ACC championship. They're plus, I love these odds, plus 190 to make the playoff. Just play plus 350 because if they win the ACC championship, they're in. I mean, I know theoretically they could go 10-2 and still get in, but I don't know. Plus 4,500 to win the Natty. Hey, why not? They've done it twice? They've been there 3 times in the past decade.
Yeah, I don't think that's a terrible bet necessarily.
Yeah, especially if you're a Clemson fan, man. Throw some bucks on it. The schedule, though, Patty C, there's a brand new ACC. You got all these California and Texas teams coming in. We'll see about this because week 1, they are going to that filthy Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Why can't they just do a fucking home and home? Yeah. I don't even like it at Bank of America Stadium where they did 2 years ago. Yeah. But like, dude, I hate it at this location. Bank of America better than rivals. This. Yeah,
they should definitely be playing at home and home.
I know they fucking ruin it. All right, college football is better on campus. Who is making these deals? You got them beating Georgia, Patty C?
No, although I think this game will be surprisingly closer than a lot of people think.
Well, it was 10-3 last time. And that was on a defensive touchdown.
That was, I know exactly. That was a few years ago, though. What was that? 2 years ago?
That's the year they won the Natty, I thought, though, right?
Georgia?
Yeah.
Well, there was 2 of those years, but let me see if I go back. Was it 2022? No, it was 2021.
Right? Was it 21? I thought it was 22 for some reason. Okay.
3 years removed from that as of this year. And Klubnik at the quarterback position. Meanwhile, Georgia, you could argue probably should have been the national champion last year. That kind of bullshit call against Alabama.
Oh yeah. I mean, that call was bullshit, but you're sounding like Greg Sankey over here. He's you didn't hear us bitching. I'm like, buddy, they lost in the SEC
they lost
championship.
the game. I'm not saying they should have been in the playoff. I'm saying that they were probably the best team in the country last year.
Really? I don't know that I agree. I actually think if you're going to say that, then I would say Oregon deserved to me, like they lost both games by single digits to Washington. None of them were in Eugene.
It's true. Oregon's right there.
Yeah,
Oregon,
I think you could argue a lot of different teams. I mean,
but yeah, I mean, I guess you got to. I think I'm probably still somehow putting a little too much weight into that bowl game against Florida State.
Way too much weight. That means nothing. But I will say this: like to me, the difference was Stetson Bennett was a little bit better. Like he just had the it factor, and they were missing just a tiny bit of that. And I thought it showed throughout the season. When Georgia played Missouri, when Georgia played South Carolina, they weren't as dominant last season.
We're talking about last year.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years ago, Stetson Bennett, 3 years ago, I guess when they won the first championship with him, he was pretty good, but not nearly as good as he was the second time around.
Yeah, the second time around, like I really felt like they were on a different level.
No doubt there was a drop off. No doubt there was a drop off. So I don't know. I mean, we're kind of doing the Georgia preview right now.
It's in Atlanta though, dude. I'm taking Georgia. They're gonna have the crowd, that filthy fucking dome.
I just think Klubnik's gonna take a step forward here, and all of a sudden, like he's making smarter plays.
Clemson wins. I don't even understand why Clemson's leaving the ACC. Have we thought about this?
Yeah, they're idiots.
You're gonna be in the playoffs every fucking year for the most part between you and Florida State. But at some point, though, that will come back around. If you're making the playoffs every year, Patty,
I guess I don't know.
Patty,
I mean, Florida State still wants out. Florida State's been.
I know, and they're dumb.
Clemson's been making the playoffs.
I'm going to say they're both dumb because when Oklahoma makes the playoffs once every 20 years, like I understand short term, you're thinking 2-3 years, but when you join this mega conference.
Yeah, I agree
only a couple teams can go. So 20 years down the road, if you're going to ruin that, someone has to take the losses. You can't
look no further than Miami.
Miami, or Arkansas, or Nebraska.
Arkansas. I mean, and I don't remember. Maybe Arkansas was a championship level program at one point.
They were.
Yeah, so maybe,
they were. Yes,
but in my lifetime, Miami. And that's clearly a team that won 5 national championships, almost 6 in like a 20-year period. The dominant team in the sport, and then they join a team and they go for the clout the conference rather, where they're not head and shoulders above everyone else, and it slowly deteriorates their reputation, and their recruiting ability, and long term they just are a worse program for it.
Well, my thing is this: they're so concerned about the money, not just Clemson, everybody, right?
Yeah,
and they're stupid because there has to be, if you just throw out, it's still 11 on 11. All right, there has to be a limit on that. Like on 11 on 11, what is the max amount of money that you can win and compete in the playoffs with? Because I still think you can make that money in the ACC.
Well, when you say 11 on 11, I mean, yes, it's still 11.
I'm saying okay, what is that? You're chasing the money. Like Arkansas makes more money now than they did in the Southwest Conference. Way more money, right? But guess what? They go 6-6 every year.
Well, again, I mean, Vanderbilt was never good in the first place, so maybe that's not a good example, but they are perfectly content taking L's. At least the administration is. I don't know about the fans. I don't know about the players and coaches, but the administration, who is ultimately in control, is the one that's saying, hey, as long as you're doubling my paycheck every year to this university, I could give a fuck if you're 6-6 or 11-1.
We had Larry the Cable Guy on the show. He's from Nebraska. Diehard Nebraska fan. He has a suite. And he's like, look, Nebraska has the longest bowl drought streak in America right now for Power Fives, right?
Yeah.
And when we had him on the show, we're saying, so you catch a lot of games. He's like, I would go to more. I try to go to them all, but he's like, my kids they're not interested in Nebraska. They're just not interested. I mean, they've been shitty for so long.
You can't even like really quantify the fucking other aspects of it that impact the program. You know, you are losing fan support by doing that.
Well, not only that, he said the same thing that like West Virginia fans have told me. And he's like, not only did have we been shitty, but I don't care when they play Northwestern. He's like, I don't care when they play Indiana. Yeah. Like, he's like, before, like, oh, you'd circle the Oklahoma game, you'd circle the Colorado game, and we talk trash because our neighbors did go to Kansas or Kansas State. Like, it's like the West Virginia angle. It's like I laughed when I saw that, and Nebraska's got this fake sellout streak that they have someone buy the tickets because they've definitely had some emptier games than normal.
Well, and here's the thing, though: if Nebraska was winning and playing in huge games like they were when Tom Osborne was there, when they went to 25, had 25 top 25 straight finishes in a row. That wasn't English, but I'll try again later. They still have proximity to the likes of Iowa and Minnesota and Wisconsin and Northwestern, Illinois, whatever. Those could be huge games if they were still a huge team, but they cut off their recruiting pipeline. They went away from their bread and butter, which is the triple option, and it screwed them over. Clemson, I still think, would obviously, if they stayed in the SEC, have proximity to the their region. If they went SEC, if they go Big Ten though, then I think you might have a similar situation in Nebraska where it's like, dude, you're just out of place and you're like a 500 team and no one gives a damn.
Look, maybe Clemson would thrive. I'm just saying some of these schools would fail because it just doesn't make sense. Someone has to lose these fucking games, and then you're gonna over years. One would develop a losing culture. Fan interest will dwindle. Whether it's Oklahoma, whether it's Clemson, whether it's Auburn, I don't know. Whoever. Some of these teams are gonna have to take the losses. That's why it just doesn't make sense to me. Just stay where you're at. You're still making good money. I understand.
Dude, it's a few years away from the chance to restructure the contract.
That's what I'm saying.
You made a bad deal one time.
That's what I'm saying. Just weather the storm, and you're good. Weather the storm, and you're
smarter
good.
Next time. Don't make a 15-year deal, even though
they celebrated it at the time. At the time, celebrated it because the college football was going crazy. They're like,
well, to be honest, who's still mainly the same conference, the ACC. Sure, they've added a couple teams to shore up. Like
I don't know, they just went to California and Texas. Buddy, I got them 0-1. You too?
Yeah, 0-1.
I'll tell you this: if they beat Georgia, they better watch the fuck out.
Either way, look out.
App State will beat them if they're on cloud nine.
Yeah.
App State just recently won at A&M. Should have won at Penn State.
Yeah.
Dangerous second opponent there, but 1-1 after 2.
If you are Clemson, you better hope for a moral victory in this Georgia game. You better not have your heart ripped out or get utterly stomped on by Georgia and demoralized, because I'm reminded as a JMU fan of Virginia Tech and Boise
I was
State.
at that game. Yeah,
both being top 10 teams. A game that ultimately probably cost Virginia Tech a chance at the national championship. They knew that at the time, and then boom, what do? They go and lose to JMU the next week in a game they probably should have never lost, because they did end up winning their next 11 games and going undefeated in the ACC. So if Clemson isn't careful, they can let Appalachian State do the same thing. That would be terrible if they're 0-2, but I got them 1-1 as well.
I got them 1-1 too. I don't like the early bye week. That's one of the things I do not like about this schedule. But I mean, you are home to NC State. They got Big Bird, aka Grayson McCall, who
That's
longer
actually a strategic bye week there.
Really, I think I would have rather had it later in the year.
Later, yes, of course, but before NC State is helpful.
Sure. If this was at Carter Finley, I think I might take NC State, but it's in Clemson. Give me Clemson.
Yep.
Yeah. 2-1, and then the Stanford Cardinal come to town. 3-1.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any chance? I feel like Dabo's like 14-1 against Syracuse, but I feel like every Syracuse game is like a 3-point game. Stanford has a knack of fucking with Notre Dame. Maybe they could mess with Clemson. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about the Stanford and Notre Dame. I think it's the private school pussy thing. Well, really what it is, and you're probably right, is that Notre Dame, even though they win most of the games they're supposed to win, they lose some games that they shouldn't. I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say. Stanford is just good enough to beat. Stanford is just good enough to beat.
Well, I don't get break my head cold, but they're counting down.
Stanford, from a recruiting and a player development standpoint, is typically just good enough to beat a team that has 4-star recruits mostly. And that's kind of what Clemson is at this point, because they haven't recruited at that elite level. So they might be susceptible here.
I look, I have a crystal ball I can see in the future, and this is Stanford, their first interview, after the game.
I'm dying in this fucking country ass fucked up town. Shit flying in my mouth.
I mean, September.
And let's get the fuck out of this country, mother.
September in South Carolina is probably the hottest day of the year in Palo Alto. So,
3-1, right? Before the big game, as they head into Tallahassee. Will there be one of the greatest moments in the history of college football? Is let me see if I can quickly pull this up. Is what Clemson is responsible for one of the greatest moments in college football, and I'm very thankful. We just did the Cal preview, and the Stanford Cal play in '82 is, in my opinion, the greatest football play ever. But one of the things that I think is just low key,
the greatest fan moment in college.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm trying to quickly pull it up and put it on youtube.com/the college experience. But,
what was the score of that?
I'm trying to, my shit's going slow right now, but hang on. I got it. Just, you ever gone to a game and decide it's a good time to read a spy novel? Why is this taking so long, man? Anyway, I don't know, man. I'm trying to get this. It's taking.
Bring it up later.
I don't know. I think I got it now. I think I got it right now. But here, right.
OMG, just
right there. All right,
can't
you
even
got
see
it.
Nope, can't even see it.
Well, you do now.
Oh, here we go.
All right.
Boom. There we go.
One of the greatest. What was that score? 52-3. How much time's left in that?
I can't read it.
Oh man. Anyway, that was what. Any chance that happens again, Patty C?
That's a 70-year-old man, a shirtless man, reading a book in the stands of an otherwise empty stadium. For those
it's
listening,
the third quarter. It's the third quarter with 30 seconds left, and it's 52-3.
That was against Miami.
No, that was Clemson, Florida State.
That was Clemson,
at Florida State.
At Florida State.
Any chance Clemson goes into Tallahassee and does that again?
No, not this year. I would be very surprised.
Who do you got winning this?
I'm gonna lean DJU and Florida State, but I don't feel great about it.
You gotta like the revenge angle though. DJU gets sent packing to Corvallis. Klubnik was the one they decided they wanted Klubnik over DJU.
Was it DJU?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I guess he still decided to leave on his own, but for all intents and purposes, got shown the bench.
I'm with you too. Give me Florida State, but I think it's going to be a super close game and one of the bigger games of the season. But I'll take Florida State.
This is what Clemson, Florida State has always supposed to have been. And, big stakes on the line. I don't know with Clemson coming in at 3-1, whether they'll be ranked at this point, but probably fringe top 25 and Florida State presumably undefeated. A great chance for Clemson to pop back up into the playoff conversation. Unfortunately, see them falling a little bit short here.
Yeah, they get a back-to-back away as they go to Winston-Salem, take on Dave Clawson and Wake Forest, who was knocking on. Dude, the last two times? Like Dabo's never lost a Wake, but the last two, one of them was in overtime in Winston-Salem, and then last season they had a chance to win it inside the 20, and they Clemson prevailed. But I just think Clemson's just way especially if they come off the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Clemson. I'm curious how they've done after losses. I doubt Dabo's the type of guy to let his team, sulk. I'm pretty sure he'll have them up, win, lose, or draw for Wake Forest enough to get the win. Although you're right, it's interesting that Wake Forest had been a team they typically crush, but recently, despite Wake not being at the level they were at for years, they fell off, but now they're keeping it close with Clemson. So that's actually a bad look for Clemson. Still, Clemson's going to win this game.
I agree. And then they're home to Virginia. Tony Elliott, revenge, coming into his old stomping ground.
First time visiting Clemson since he left.
Virginia's going to get destroyed.
Yeah.
So second bye week, we got them with 2 losses. We got them with how many wins? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5-2. Second bye week, we both have them 5-2. A really sneaky stretch right here. These 3 games. Now I know they've never lost to Louisville, but they've also never played them with Jeff Brom.
Jeff Brom did make a big difference last year. Now Louisville coming off a road trip to Boston College, then Clemson is the second half of that back-to-back. Makes me think with Clemson coming off a bye that they're going to get the better of Louisville here at home.
Ooh, I fear that Louisville is going to lose to Boston College like they do every time they go to Chestnut Hill. And then this is the one they get up for. Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Give me.
What's the quarterback situation at Louisville again?
Tyler Shuck transfers in.
Shuck's I'm not going to say he's a business.
No, he's better than Jack Plummer. He's a more talented quarterback to me, way more athletic.
Marginally. I mean, I've never been blown away by Tyler Shuck's
really
athletic.
Plummer's decision making was fucking horrible, dude.
Look, I can't say that Plummer was a great quarterback. No, I'm just saying that Shuck is decidedly mediocre.
He's
maybe slightly
fragile.
above average.
He's fragile.
He's fragile too.
All right, I'll give it to them, but I don't feel great about it. And if they lose one more game, they're
probably
the under hits. The under hits. It's 9.5. We have 2 losses right now.
And here it is right here.
I actually tend to think it's the one after, but I actually think it might be both. How cold Blacksburg low key gets really fucking cold. They're going to lose both these games in my opinion.
At least one. So I think the under
I think the Pitt one is the harder one.
You might be right. I think maybe assuming Tech is having a pretty good season though, this place will be insane for this game.
He's never lost to Virginia Tech.
Yeah, so maybe though, I think you're right. The fact that Pitt has given him such trouble,
I just feel like Virginia Tech will be top 15. Pitt will be like 5-5 or something. Yeah. So they won't get up like they'll be super focused for a Virginia Tech game. Yeah. It's the Pitt game that I feel like the very next week.
Now, why is it a Friday nighter at Tech? Or
no, I think I might have messed up that date. That might have been me messing that up. But anyway, I have the under there because I think that honestly, the Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pitt back to back. I think all 3 teams are capable of beating them.
They'll lose one of them.
I think they're going to lose 2. I think they're going to lose 2. They're going to go 8-4. Then they have the Citadel. Shout out to the Citadel. Stump Mitchell forever. And then home to South Carolina. Is Shane Beamer coaching that game, the Palmetto Bowl?
I have no idea. Flip a coin on that one. I think he probably makes it to the end of the season, but this is probably the game that cost him his job.
He won the last time he was in Clemson. If they're 8-4 and they're not in the playoffs,
this is a great moment.
They're vulnerable.
Magic. Yeah.
Because their season, that's something we got to add to our handicapping. That this is what's so fascinating about this year's college football season. It's not only that, I wrote a list of 65 teams that I think should have reasonable expectations of making the playoffs. Right. Mm-hmm. There's a flip side to this coin. If let's say they lose to Virginia Tech and they're 9-3, and the very next week Pitt catches them, and they're 8-4, they're no longer even a chance to make the playoffs. Right.
They're gone.
So you see this in the NFL sometimes. When that happens, they're vulnerable for the upset then. So could South Carolina then beat them because players are thinking about transferring? They're thinking the season's fucking over. What do we, we're going to end up in the Chimichanga Bowl. You know what I mean?
Like Dabo's the last coach that's just going to let his players, just conk out. He's got too much pride.
I feel like it's human nature a little bit, though, right?
It is, but it's the same thing like Georgia. I think that's where Georgia has gotten their program and it's the same thing Michigan did. They've gone beyond just acquiring talent. They are getting guys and developing guys that buy into their culture. Like, they're gonna get talent, although they've actually dropped off a little bit from a talent standpoint, Clemson. But I think culture is not a problem there. I think they're gonna buy in. I doubt they drop off at that point. Even still, though, 9.5 is the number. I think 9-3 is probably likely. I could see 8-4 more than I could see 10-2, but I could certainly see. I think it's going to be hard for them to get to 10 wins. It's possible, but it's going to be possible. It's going to be tough.
They got to. Well, they got to. What sucks about it to me? If you're a Clemson fan, your hardest games are on the road. Georgia in Atlanta is a fucking road game. Whatever you want to say, that's a road game, right?
Yeah.
Florida State and Tallahassee road game.
Assume you drop those two, you have zero margin of error. None.
Well, and Virginia Tech is like projected to to be a contender. That's in lane. Yeah. At Pitt, we talked about the history. They've never won at Pitt. Clemson's never won at Pitt, and they struggle in general. Wherever they play them, Pitt gives them a game.
Yeah,
and then
let alone the likes of App State, who's just notorious for,
or NC State, or like Wake's been knocking on the door, and then South Carolina. I feel like the under's a smarter play. They still might make the playoffs. You go 9-3, the under still hits. You still might be able to get in that ACC championship, win that game, and make the playoffs. So
I agree. And the other thing is, like, again, this is what the benefit of this program that other teams across the nation don't have is that if you are returning most of your guys, you're going to improve just based on experience and development. But unfortunately, the defense is losing a ton. So.
Now, here's the problem, though, is the under's at minus 160. So there's really no value on taking the under. It honestly, like, the wiser play might just be take them to win the ACC championship at plus 350, because they could still, if they go 9-3 with one of their losses being to Georgia, that means they have 2 ACC losses. It means they'll probably be in the ACC championship game, which will be in Charlotte, which is very, who knows who you're playing? You might be playing fucking Cal or SMU or something. So you'll have that.
It'll almost certainly be a rematch with Florida State unless they lose to them.
No, these tiebreakers are going to be wacky, dude. I really think they fucked up. Like, and I'm not saying the ACC. I'm saying all these conferences. I think these if you think you're just going to get the 1 and 2 teams.
If you think weird teams in conference championships,
I think you already saw that last year. Louisville wasn't the second best team in the ACC. Yeah. Oklahoma State wasn't the second best team in the Big 12. And just because of these wacky, and that was with 14 team conferences or 12 team conferences. Now we're at 17, 18, 16, 16. Yeah. It's going to be even harder.
Rutgers in the Big Ten championship.
It's going to be wacky. I think though, if you're betting this, you bet the plus 350.
Rutgers versus Iowa Big Ten championship.
Dude, you laugh. It ain't that hard to map out.
Picture, yeah.
I'm on the under. Patty C's on the under. Give Patty C a follow on Twitter at Patty C831. I'm on Twitter at the Colby D. The College Football Experience is on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. Go check out all of our team previews. They're out. We have coaching interviews too. Jay Norvell episode dropped today. See what the old Chicago Bear and current Colorado State Rams head coach said. But yeah, go check out all those episodes, and obviously youtube.com/the college experience, the hub for all of our stuff. If you're a Clemson baseball fan, if you're a Clemson basketball fan, college basketball experience, college baseball experience, the Stadium Heads podcast. Oh my God. Clemson Memorial Stadium, the real Death Valley, by the way.
Boom. There it is.
It really is the real Death Valley. I mean, like, I've been to games at LSU. It's fantastic, but LSU Clemson claimed it first.
Death Valley, but they claim to be Death Valley. But yes, Clemson is the original Death Valley. You're
it's
right.
like the Raging Cajuns. A lot of people know the Raging Cajuns had the original swamp, and just because Florida got really good, they stole that shit. All right. We talk about stuff like this on the Stadium Heads podcast. We talk about why college football is the greatest thing ever. Clemson Memorial Stadium is one of the better stadiums in the nation.
It's not just Stadium Heads, it's college football heads. That's what they're doing. They're chopping it up, talking about everything. But yes, they dive into the venues themselves. But there's a lot of other stuff that college football history wise that's going on in that podcast.
Yeah. So check out the Stadium Heads podcast. We're talking SWAC stadiums tomorrow, but we've already done the ACC stadiums. Go see what we said about Clemson Memorial Stadium. Also check out the Sports Gambling podcast, and tomorrow Notre Dame Fighting Irish preview early in the morning. So let's go. Till next time, folks. This is the college football experience, Clemson Tiger style. You better start thinking about yours, and we out of here.
Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot. And the whole team's looking, and the whole world's looking with the cameras. Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot. And you know